I'm Emma, a 34-year-old who used to take pictures as a job. Now, I'm a full-time mom. My whole life used to be about capturing moments through my camera, but now it's all about taking care of my baby who's sleeping in the next room. But deep down, something doesn't feel right. Our house, which used to be our happy place, now feels empty. The fancy terrace where my husband Alex and I would chat in the mornings feels like it's mocking me with its emptiness. Even the garden, which we used to care for together, feels like it's silently witnessing the growing space between us. I remember the day I brought our baby boy home from the hospital. I expected Alex to be excited, maybe shed a tear of joy. Instead, he barely acknowledged us. He said he wasn't good with babies and needed time. It's not just about the baby, though. Alex seems different now. When he comes home from work, he looks tired and distant. One evening, as I tried to talk to him about it, he brushed me off, saying he was tired from work and didn't need a lecture. But I couldn't keep quiet. I told him I felt like I was raising our son alone. He looked at me coldly and asked what more I wanted from him. It hurt to hear him say that. I just wanted my husband back, the one who promised to always be there for me. But it felt like he was slipping away, buried in his work just like before. And then, one evening, he came home late again, avoiding my eyes as he walked in. "I'm just tired," I said wearily, feeling more drained than just physically exhausted. Alex grunted and tossed his keys on the table, complaining about work being a mess and saying I wouldn't understand. His sharp tone hurt. "You think I wouldn't understand?" I reminded him of the late nights we both endured when I worked in the studio. "I get it, but this feels different." "You're different." He scoffed and loosened his tie angrily. "Different how?" "Because I'm trying to provide for this family. Because I'm not jumping with joy every minute." I held back my initial response, carefully choosing my words. "It's not about providing, Alex. It's about being present. You barely look at your son. You barely talk to me. It's like you're here, but you're not." He finally looked at me, his eyes hard. "What do you want from me, Emma? I'm working hard every day. Coming home to this," he gestured vaguely around the room, "and all I get is complaints." His words cut deep. "Complaints? Is that what you think this is, Alex? I'm worried about us, about you. I see how you avoid us, how you're pulling away. It reminds me of before." Alex's face tightened, his jaw clenched. "You're bringing that up again. I thought we were past that, Emma. I thought we agreed to leave that behind." I held our son closer, feeling his warmth against the cold atmosphere between us. "Leave it behind? How can I, Alex, when you're acting just like you did back then? The late nights, the distance, the silence, it's all too familiar." Frustration radiated from him as he threw up his hands. "So what, you think I'm cheating again? Is that it? You think I haven't changed?" The question hung heavily in the air, unwelcome and painful. "I don't know," I admitted, feeling lost and unsure of where we stood. "Alex, I don't know what to think. All I know is that something's not right, and it's tearing us apart," I said softly. He ran a hand through his hair, a telltale sign of his stress. "Tearing us apart. Maybe it's your constant accusations. Ever thought of that? Maybe it's you who's not letting us move forward." He shot back, then abruptly left the room, leaving behind a silence heavier than any argument. It was just another Monday afternoon when my phone buzzed with a notification. A message from someone I didn't recognize. Curious, I opened it, unaware that those few lines were about to shatter the fragile piece of my world. "Emma, you don't know me, but I think it's time you did. Alex has been living a double life, and I'm the other woman," it read. My heart stopped. This had to be some sick joke, but then I saw the pictures attached. Alex, not just with this woman, but with children, 3 of them, each bearing a resemblance to the man I called my husband. I was still reeling from the shock when Alex walked in, earlier than usual. "Back so soon?" I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. He shrugged, clearly oblivious to the storm raging inside me. "Yeah, things were slow at the office," he replied casually. I held up my phone, the picture of him with that woman and the children filling the screen. "Slow? Huh?" Is this how you kill time? His face went white, the mask of indifference crumbling in an instant. Emma, where did you get this? He asked, his words heavy with worry. From her, Alex. Your other woman, I said, my voice trembling. He tried to grab the phone, but I pulled away, my eyes never leaving his. So it's true then. The late nights, the distance. It wasn't just work, it was them, I said, feeling the weight of betrayal settling in. Alex sank into a chair, his facade shattered. Emma, listen. It's not what you think, he pleaded. I laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in the silence. Not what I think, Alex? The pictures don't lie. You have a whole other family. How long have you been lying to me? I asked, my voice breaking. He buried his face in his hands, a defeated figure. A few years. It started small. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he confessed. A few years, I repeated, the words hanging heavily in the air, a testament to the lie my life had become and the children. Alex, are they yours? I asked, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. He didn't answer, but he didn't need to. The truth was right there in the silence, in the photos, in the years of deceit. You need to leave, Alex, now, I said firmly, my voice unwavering. With that, he left, the sound of the closing door marking the end of our story. I sat there alone, holding our son, the only real thing in the mess that was my life. Just when the dust seemed to be settling, life decided to throw another curveball. I was in the middle of a feeding session with my son when the doorbell rang, slicing through the quiet afternoon. Expecting maybe a delivery or a neighbor, I was completely taken aback to see Alex looking sheepish and the woman I recognized from the photos, the other woman, standing boldly in my doorway. Before I could even react, she pushed past me into the house, her eyes scanning every detail. This is quite the place you've got here, Emma. Cozy and spacious, perfect for a family, don't you think, Alex? She said mockingly. Alex didn't meet my gaze, his shame evident, his voice silent. I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my composure in the face of this intrusion. And what family would that be? Because the last time I checked, this was my home, I retorted, standing protectively in front of my son's crib. She smirked, a calculated glint in her eye. Well, the family Alex should have been with all along, me and our 3 kids. You see, we need this house more than you do. A big, beautiful house for a big family. You understand, right? She said, her words dripping with entitlement. I was fuming, each word from her mouth fueling my anger. Understand? I understand perfectly. You're delusional if you think you can just barge in here and lay claim to what's mine. Alex has no right to this house, and neither do you, I declared, my voice firm. Finally, Alex spoke, his voice barely a whisper. Emma, maybe we should discuss this. I snapped, my patience wearing thin. Discuss. You think after everything we're just going to sit down and have a chat about you handing over my house to your mistress and your other children. The woman paced around, her eyes scanning the room. Look, Emma, it's simple. You've got 1 kid, a small apartment will do. We've got 3, we need the space. It's only fair, she said, her tone condescending. Fair, I repeated incredulously. There's nothing fair about betrayal, about lies, about breaking a family. You have no idea what fair is, I said, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. She turned to Alex, seeking affirmation. Tell her, Alex. Tell her we'll be moving in. She's got a week to clear out. Alex avoided my gaze, his shoulders slumping in defeat. The standoff was tense, the air thick with unsaid words and unspoken threats. But as they left, the woman throwing a spiteful glance over her shoulder and Alex not even daring to look back, I knew that this was far from over. After the door slammed shut behind them, I was left standing in the silence of my home, my mind racing. The nerve of them coming into my house, threatening to take everything I held dear. But as the initial shock subsided, a plan began to form. It was time to reveal the truth, time to claim what was rightfully mine. The doorbell rang, its chime echoing like the start of a showdown. There they stood, Alex looking more defeated than ever, and his mistress, her arrogance undiminished. Time's up, Emma. We're here to move in. Did you pack your stuff? She demanded, her eyes gleaming with triumph. I stood in the doorway, my stance firm. Actually, I didn't pack, and you're not moving in. This house is mine, and I have the documents to prove it, I declared. The woman's face faltered, confusion mixing with her anger. What are you talking about? This is Alex's house, too. We have rights, she argued. I couldn't help but smirk, the tables finally turning. No, you see, that's where you're wrong. This house was a gift from my parents to me. Alex's name isn't on any of the documents. He has no claim over this property, I explained. Alex shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Emma, I thought we could work something out, he muttered, but I wasn't having it. Work something out after you cheated, lied, and then tried to kick me and your son out of our home. I don't think so, I retorted. The mistress interjected, her voice shrill with panic. This can't be happening. You're lying, Alex. Tell her she's lying. But Alex remained silent, his head hung low, the truth of the situation finally dawning on him. It's not a lie, I said firmly. This house is mine, and you have no legal right to be here. So I suggest you leave before I call the police. The woman's eyes darted to Alex, seeking confirmation or maybe denial. But Alex stood silent, his truth too heavy to bear. But we have a family. We need this house. You can't just throw us out, she protested, her voice tinged with desperation. The only thing I'm throwing out is the lies, I countered. And while we're at it, let's talk about Alex's job, shall we? He's not the high-flying executive you think he is. He's a clerk, a simple office worker. Your dreams of a lavish life in this house are just that, dreams. The revelation hit her like a physical blow, her face contorting with rage and disbelief. A clerk. You're lying, Alex. Tell her she's lying. But Alex remained silent, his shoulders slumped in defeat. You've been living in a fantasy fed by Alex's lies, but it ends now, I declared firmly. You have no place here. It's time for you both to leave. The confrontation was intense, the air thick with tension and unsaid words. As they turned to leave, the mistress's parting glance was filled with venom and vows of revenge. This isn't the end, Emma. You'll regret this, she hissed, her dreams shattered by the harsh light of truth. It was a crisp morning, the kind that usually promised a peaceful start. But peace was a luxury I could no longer afford. The sound of the doorbell shattered the calm like a rock through a window. As I opened the door, my heart sank. There she stood, Alex's mistress, her face twisted into a smirk, her children huddled behind her. You've got some nerve showing up here again, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. The mistress didn't falter. I've had every right, Emma. These kids, she gestured to the innocent faces behind her. They deserve a proper home. Your home. I couldn't help but scoff at her audacity. Deserve? The only thing you deserve is a reality check. This is my house, and you're not welcome here, I declared firmly. Her smirk widened, her voice growing louder. Oh, I'm not welcome. We'll see about that. You think you can just sit in this big, fancy house all alone with your baby while my kids suffer? You're more heartless than I thought, she accused, her words sharp and meant to wound. Heartless. I'm not the one tearing families apart, disrupting lives. You did that all on your own, I shot back, feeling the weight of her accusations. The neighbors, drawn by her shrill voice, had begun to gather, their whispers adding to the tension. She relished the audience, her theatrics reaching new heights. Look at this, folks. Emma here thinks she's too good to share, thinks this palace is only for her and her baby. What about my children? Don't they deserve a home too? I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to slam the door in her face. Your children deserve better, that's for sure. Better than a mother who uses them as pawns in her twisted games, I retorted, holding my ground. She stepped closer, her eyes flashing with anger. You think you can judge me, Emma. You, who had everything handed to her on a silver platter. My kids have had to fight for every little thing in their lives, And now you want to deny them a roof over their heads. I shook my head in disbelief and anger. I'm not denying them anything. Their father, the man you stole from me, he's the one you should be looking at. He's the one who's failed them and you, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. The mistress's face reddened, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Alex promised us a better life. He promised we have this house. Are you going to stand there and tell me those were all lies? Her words hung heavy in the air, a painful reminder of Alex's betrayal. Promises from Alex aren't worth much these days, it seems. But one thing's for sure, this house isn't part of his empty promises. It's mine, and you have no claim to it, I declared firmly. She bristled, her composure slipping. I'm not leaving, Emma. Not until you do right by these kids. I'll camp out here if I have to. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of cold-hearted witch lives in this mansion, she threatened, her eyes blazing with anger. I stared at her, the absurdity of the situation hitting me full force. You're going to camp out on my property? I don't think so. This is your last warning. Leave now, or I'll call the police, I warned, my voice firm. Her eyes darted around at the gathered neighbors, but the resolve in my voice must have hit a nerve. She gathered her children, her parting shot a venomous glare. This isn't over, Emma. You think you've won, but you've just started a war. The drama of the previous week still hung heavy in my home like a cloud, refusing to move on. I was Emma, a woman who thought she had seen it all, until the doorbell rang again, bringing a chapter I thought I had closed. There he was, Alex, standing on my doorstep, his face a mixture of regret and desperation. The sight of him after everything sparked a fury I hadn't known I possessed. What are you doing here, Alex? Haven't you done enough? I spat, my words sharp and unforgiving. He looked down, his hands fidgeting nervously. Emma, I need to talk to you. It's important, he pleaded, his voice strained with emotion. I crossed my arms, my stance unyielding. Talk? After you tried to take my home, after all the lies. You must be kidding, I said, feeling a surge of anger and betrayal. He swallowed hard, a man grasping at straws. Please, Emma, I made a mistake, a huge mistake. I see that now. I was wrong, he confessed, his voice filled with remorse. So wrong I couldn't help but laugh. I said, the sound bitter and hollow. A mistake? Is that what you call it? You destroyed our family, Alex. You chose her, chose that life. And now you're here. What? Asking for forgiveness. His eyes met mine, a glimmer of the man I once knew flickering in their depths. Not just forgiveness, Emma. I want to come back. I want to make things right. For you, for our son, he pleaded. The audacity of his request left me speechless. How could he stand there asking for a second chance, as if he could erase the past with a few words? You want to come back after everything? You think you can just walk back into our lives like nothing happened? I asked, my voice rising with every word. He nodded, a desperate man clinging to a lifeline. Yes, Emma, I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try. I'll do anything, everything, to make it up to you, to our son. I shook my head, the finality of my decision clear in my mind. It's too late, Alex. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. We are moving on without you. His shoulders slumped, defeat etched into every line of his face. Emma, please don't do this. Think of our son. He needs his father. I felt a pain in my heart for the life we could have had, for the family that was broken beyond repair. He needs his father, and where were you? With her, with them. You're not the man we need, Alex. It's time you realized that. He stood there for a moment longer, a man lost in the ruins of his own making. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, his figure disappearing into the night. The final pieces of my old life had fallen away, leaving space for something new, something mine. The divorce papers were signed, and Alex was now just a person from my past, a shadow that no longer darkened my door. He was ordered to pay alimony for our son, a small justice in the grand scheme of things. Sitting in my quiet living room, I reflected on the tumultuous journey. The phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was Lisa, her voice carrying the latest gossip. "Hey Emma, you won't believe this. Alex and his mistress are crammed into a tiny apartment. Word is, they do nothing but fight day in and day out." I couldn't help but feel a twinge of vindication. "Well, can't say I'm surprised. You reap what you sow, right?" I chuckled. "True that. How are you holding up, though? All this must be tough." Lisa asked, her concern genuine. "It's been a ride, Lisa, but I'm getting there. Each day feels a bit lighter, a bit more mine," I replied. "You're the strongest person I know, Emma. And hey, if you need anything, I'm just a call away, all right?" Her words were a balm, soothing the lingering sting of the past. "Thanks, I really appreciate it." The conversation drifted to lighter topics, a welcome change. After hanging up, I gazed around the room. This was my space, my sanctuary. The battles fought within these walls had left scars, but they were healing, turning into stories of strength and resilience. I picked up my camera, an old friend I had neglected. The weight of it in my hands felt right. I snapped a few pictures of the room, of my son's toys, of the life that was slowly piecing itself back together. Each click of the shutter was a declaration, a statement that while the past was a part of me, it didn't define me. As I put my son to bed that night, his tiny hand clutching my finger, I whispered promises of a future bright and unburdened. Outside, the stars twinkled, a vast canvas of possibilities stretching out before us. Alex and his mistress were just a chapter closed, a lesson learned. Our story, the one that truly mattered, was just beginning. And it was going to be a beautiful one.